I would like to present you what we did with XMPP at Mila, and going to first say hello. I'm Michael from Zurich. I work in Zurich but live near Bern, and I'm software engineer at Mila, responsible for the chat integration. I'm also did some other things like a multi-user chat for XMPP, which is called Candy. It's open source and I'm the lead developer there. So first I'm going to talk a bit about Mila, what Mila is, because I guess no one of you knows it. It's a startup live since about 3 years, or we started work on it 3 years ago. And what we are doing is an online service marketplace. So on Mila you can, as a service provider, as a small business owner, for example, for cleaning, you can put your services online on Mila and customers can buy it. We have, for one, we have professional services, so as said, cleaning service, for example, which are done by small companies. One of them could scale from 1 person up to 10 persons, thanks to Mila and being integrated with Mila. This looks a bit like this, screenshot from a page which we did specifically for cleaning. Here you can choose how many hours you would like to have cleaned your flat, in which area you live in, and also at which date you would like to have your flat cleaned. We have another business model which is called Friends. Friends is a partnership with various bigger companies, for example Swisscom, which is the largest telecom provider in Switzerland, and also Vodafone, Vodafone Germany. So they're trying to find new ways how to help their customers through Mila. People which are good at technical things in your neighborhood can help you with your technical issues. This will hopefully for those partners will enable them to have less calls on their support hotline, and usually these calls which the friends can solve are not solvable by the hotline people, because it's not really about the product or about abonnement or something like that, but about real technical issues, which otherwise, if the friends didn't exist, they would have to hire or send an expensive technical staff to their home. So as I said, we have Swisscom, for example. Here's an example of this page. You can see that we have various categories in which Swisscom friends can help. And this is basically the landing page. On the next page you can choose for which issue you would like to have help. We have also Vodafone, live since a bit more than a month now. It's in the pilot phase. We're only in Berlin there, and this is basically the same as we did for Swisscom. So they help you within your neighborhood with some technical issues. And please excuse the color combination here, you know, corporate identity.
Question.
Yes?
I see the business model for Vodafone, the telecom company. Mm-hmm. Is the friend getting paid as well, or is that something between the two parties?
Yes, so I mean the friend is getting paid by the one who asks him to help. We also get a percentage out of it. So, but otherwise they have no payment there. They get some of them get some training from Vodafone or Swisscom in order to get better with their products. So in order to actually do something on Mila, you have to make a deal. And this is also where then the chat feature comes into play. What I'm going to show here is just like customer to customer, which is the friends workflow which we have. I'm not going to show you the professional services. It is similar, but you're not really able to chat with him. So I prepared a little screencast. I hope it will work. So here is a service detail site which describes what the service is about. Then you can send a service request, so-called, with some information about yourself and a message. Then you see that you have opened a deal, which you can do various action on it. You can also see that you are able to send a message. On the other side of the service provider, you of course also see the same deal, and the service provider has some other options usually than the buyer. So as you see that you can exchange messages. This is usually used for asking questions about what exactly the problem is, or where the people live, and stuff like that. And I'll show again a little screencast about how this works, and you'll see as well the XMPP integration here. So on the left side, you see the service provider, as far as I know, and on the right side, you see the buyer. He can now send a message, and it immediately arrives on the other side of the screen. All this is done over XMPP using an ejabberd server on the background. This is a WebSocket connection now to the server, but of course we also have native apps, iPhone and Android apps, where the same thing works, just over real socket connections. You can also see that you can change the price, and it will auto-update on the right side as well. This is currently a development edition. On the current side we have an older version of this, so it's a bit shaky still. So I'm now going more into the technical part of this. We have servers, two ejabberd servers running on AWS. We have the whole infrastructure we have on AWS, and for the mobile clients we have DNS SRV records set up in order to do round-robin load balancing between the two servers. For the web, we have either BOSH or WebSockets connection. There we go over a web load balancer for BOSH. So there it's just a standard HTTP load balancer. And for WebSockets, we have a TCP load balancer from AWS, because HTTP doesn't work. They don't allow WebSockets load balancing over the HTTP load balancer, and yeah, TCP is the only one which works. Sending messages works over normal XMPP, so clients send messages when they are connected to XMPP, but we also have an API on the XMPP server itself, on ejabberd, which enables our backend to send messages on behalf of users. This is done with an adaptation of an open source module called modRest, where we provide a private API for sending arbitrary stanzas. Our authentication is done using OAuth2, so our backend service has an OAuth2 implementation, and what we did here is basically a ejabberd authentication module which calls our API in order to authenticate a user. So Alice, in this case, sends a access token using the plain authentication mechanism of XMPP to the ejabberd server, and this one sends it to the API in order to check whether this access token is valid or not. In case everything is okay, API returns okay, and ejabberd says success to Alice. As I've said previously, we have multiple clients, so we have websites where you could have multiple tabs open, or also a user could be logged in on the website and on the iOS client, for example. And the problem there is, if you don't enable the carbon copy mechanism, is that whenever you, as the user who is authenticated and connected to multiple with multiple devices on XMPP, the other device who is not sending the message won't receive anything. So in order to keep all these messages in sync and the whole history in sync, we enabled carbon copy from the beginning on, and this is basically a mechanism which you know from email, that you just copy the message you are sending to all the other connected clients as well. So the server ensures that every connected client of the same user receives all the messages. Also, what we did is a little own protocol extension to XMPP, because if, again, one device, or you have two devices connected with the same user, then you have to synchronize the state between those deals. So whenever one client marks as a deal as read, the other client sees that immediately as well. This is especially noticeable when you have multiple tabs open on the same website as the same user. Then you don't want to have an unsynchronized state. Of course, also such a deal mark as read XMPP message ensures that in the database the information is updated accordingly. This is as well done using a custom module on the ejabberd side. Then for deals, we have various information. As you've seen previously in the screencast, you see that when a user updates the price of a deal, you have to somehow notify the other participant of this deal that the price has been updated. So to every message we send, we add a so-called context, which can contain various information like like the sender profile name or the old price and the new price. This we encoded a bit like this. This is the thing which gets additionally sent to each message. It's a context XML node with a certain type. A certain type can, for example, be changed price or normal user message sent, so that each client can render this message without making an API call. So every information which the client needs to render a message is sent with this context. In order to save messages from sent over XMPP, we also developed a module on ejabberd side which calls our API. This is done using a provided hook by ejabberd to inspect packages. You could filter them, for example, if you want, but you can also just act in case this is a valid message with some constraints. We save it through our API to the MySQL database. So, of course, we also have the same issue as you have, push notifications. So we have, as I said, we have an iOS client and an Android client. The iOS client is the problem that they're not allowed to keep a connection open. As soon as you close the application, the connection is closed. So we implemented also on the ejabberd side a little own module, which in case we notice that the recipient is not online, we call our API, which then checks has this user registered for push notifications and has an iPhone app basically with Mila, with the Mila app on it. And in this case, we send then our API NAS, we send a notification. For Android, it's a bit different. We didn't use GCM for it. We have an XMPP service always open, so a connection is always active, which is a huge drain on the battery. But the problem was we decided to do it like that because initially GCM didn't exist when we started with it, so they had a slightly other version of what they have now, and you couldn't do much with it. And also we launched in China initially as well, and there Google is just blocked, so you have no Google services there. And yeah, we had to find a replacement there, and this was our solution to it. This leads me to the challenges. First challenge was that I was the only one, or I'm still the only one, knowing about XMPP at Mila. And this was really hard initially especially for Android and iOS developers, to understand XMPP, because it's a huge protocol, and the libraries are also not that easy to understand. And I had to basically teach them the really lowest necessary knowledge in order to understand what XMPP is about and how it works. I even coded a little bit of Objective-C, but yeah, better not. The other question which always came as well is, why are we using XMPP? Why are we even using a real-time chat? You could just send API calls, and then at some point when the user reloads the page, you will see it. So the initial website was built using just Ajax replacements of the whole page. This has been changed meanwhile, but the problem there was that when you change the page, the header wasn't replaced, so you couldn't see that you have a new message at all. And the other problem, as said previously, we had Android app developed in China and also made for China, and there, as I said, Google just was not allowed. Even our XMPP server is listening on port 443 because they don't allow port 5280 or 5222 for that, right? So we had to make a lot of adjustments and decide for XMPP because of such constraints. Also, one idea was initially, luckily never came into existence, but as some of the people at Mila thought we will grow huge, we will need multiple data centers all across the world. And how do we communicate between those data centers? And that was also the idea to use XMPP Federation for it, in order to send messages across the globe. Yeah, and of course ejabberd, and especially the ejabberd Business Edition was chosen because we thought we will grow fast, like every startup thinks. At this very moment, it's like this, that all of this didn't happen, and we were not in China anymore, and also not in Indonesia and whatever. We're just in Switzerland and Germany, and we have very little, let's say, use for XMPP, and we also at this very moment came the discussion that why don't we just replace it? Well, the thing is, it's not really going to happen because the development was recently kicked out of the company, and so ejabberd and the whole system will stay there. That was my talk.